All right, Shaz, we are back. We're back at it. I mean, we are making the most of what this summer break is all about. I would have thought we'd be resting away, but look at us. We're back.
This is me with my feet up, Amara. Basically, this is me relaxing, chilling out with you, enjoying the summer sun, talking F1. What could be better?
What could be better than that? And we're doing it live again, so feel free to plug in your questions. We're doing a little bit of an around the horn today, so we'll be on here for the next 45 minutes
Around the
or so.
horn or
Yes,
around
we are.
the horner?
Perfect segue. Look at you, man. We have some chemistry. Speaking of Horner, let's jump right into it. So, look, in the aftermath of the Horner firing, there was a lot happening. Evidently, Sky did a full-fledged podcast on the Horner firing, and I thought, Ches, we kind of talked about these things. So by now, you kind of have a sense of what the general theories are around Horner being fired. But I thought the timing was always interesting, and so I want to pull some quotes from the F1 podcast that Sky puts out, featuring none other than Martin Brundle of the Hall of Fame F1 lineup walk, or whatever it is that Sky calls it these days. By the way, I don't follow Sky, so just if you didn't know, then
You
sound
love
like an idiot.
Sky, I know you do.
I
It's
do
like your
love Sky.
favorite.
I do love Sky.
It's so
Yeah,
it's so British, and I
no,
know you sit
and
there and
it's
like
so British, right? Right,
you're
right.
sitting there like twirling your mustache while you're watching it.
And yeah,
British.
exactly. And so the British have jumped yet again into a Max Verstappen situation. So I
Why
just
do they
want
keep doing that?
to, I don't know.
God.
So riddle me this now. Hear me out first.
Yeah, yeah.
There are many things that Brundle said in the podcast, but I thought this was pretty interesting, and I'll quote here. For whatever reason, they decided that they, being Red Bull, decided that Christian's not the man to lead them into the next phase. That Lauren Mekius is, and other people they'll no doubt put around him, Brundle said. So it's just odd. It's a strange time to do this, a strange urgency, I would say, to that. And we don't know what's gone on behind closed doors, but I do know that Team Verstappen were not happy with them. And then Brundle was asked if he believed that Red Bull was given an ultimatum by Team Verstappen, saying it's either us or him. And he said, I don't know. He didn't commit to it. He said, what's absolutely clear is that Camp Verstappen have been lobbing hand grenades for quite some months now. And I think there was a specific quote that he said where essentially they were feeding the Camp Verstappen was feeding the press with, oh, look at what Horner's doing, because all of these people are leaving, starting with Newey all the way up to Jonathan Wheatley and everyone in between, right? Will Courtney, etc. So Shez, what do you make of this? I mean, Brundle, we all know. Those of you that don't know, Brundle and Horner are actually friends, and they're tied in some way by none other than one Bernie Ecclestone. So if you're into F1 history, which I'm sure Shez will tell us more about, there's that. But how do you react to this? Like, this is strange, crazy. It really is.
Yeah. I mean, which bit of it is surprising that Martin Brundle's commenting on it, or that the Verstappens might have some kind of celebratory dance now that Christian Horner's not in?
Don't you think it's
team
strange
anymore?
that Brundle's putting his name behind the fact that he's saying, "Look, it's Camp Verstappen doing this." Like, I mean, I feel like that's nothing to like just sort of shy away from, I guess.
Yeah. But as he says, because he made it quite clear, didn't he, that he and Horner are friends. So every time I hear that clip and I hear him say that, I think back to that grid walk in Singapore when
Yep.
do you remember that one where Horner sort of says, "Oh, it's a shame you never raced here," and Brundle's like, "Yeah, shame you were never fast enough to be an F1." I always thought that was amusing, but I also kind of felt like, is that what their relationship is like? Are they actually just like animosity? Is there some animosity between them? But clearly they're not. And perhaps Martin's sitting there just looking out for his mate, or perhaps he is just saying something that is not particularly hidden. I don't think there's anything particularly about that statement that sounds massively untrue. Just look back at the timeline of all of the things that have transpired over the last 18 months.
Mm-hmm.
When the first when the news first broke about all the WhatsApp nonsense that was happening in Milton Keynes, Jos Verstappen was pretty outspoken in saying that if Christian Horner sticks around, he's going to tear the team apart. Then when it came to Helmut Marko potentially being pushed out, Max was very, very vocal saying that if Helmut leaves, I leave. Whereas when the same statement was put to him about Christian Horner leaving, there was a much, much weaker kind of, okay, yeah, sure, you might leave. It's all good. So there's nothing in that statement that makes me think that the Verstappens are particularly unhappy about Christian Horner leaving. And I have to say, like, whatever has gone on in the background, Christian Horner has taken a lot of friendly fire over the past 18 months. But in the dodging of those bullets, he has also taken out a lot of people in that organization, and between them, this little civil war has absolutely gutted the team. And one way or the other, one side of these two powers within Red Bull were going to come out on top, and it just happens that it's the Verstappens that have come out on top, and ultimately they're the ones with a bit of power, because like ultimately if you get rid of Christian Horner, you've still got Max Verstappen, who's a big performance differentiator within that car. But if you get rid of Max Verstappen, well, you've got rid of the only asset that was giving you any kind of forward momentum. So you can see why that happened. And yeah, perhaps like I don't think that there was a direct correlation between the Verstappen saying we want to get rid of Christian Horner and Christian Horner leaving, but I don't think they were particularly unhappy about it. And certainly there are certain things about Max staying and the personnel that were going to remain at Red Bull that meant that Christian Horner probably didn't have any space there. And I'm talking very specifically about the fact that that there were rumors, and it's not like none of this is fully substantiated, is it? But there are some rumors that Max was basically like, I'm not sticking around if Horner's still there, and that's why that's at least part of the reason why this has come about. But Amar, that I don't think that is the only reason why Christian Horner is not in post anymore.
Wait, you're actually saying there's performance reasons? Is that what you're saying?
I mean, I said it before, and I'll say it again. Yes, I think that.
Man, I mean,
the performance of the team now puts him in an untenable situation.
I mean, okay, I got to do this. I've seen a lot of people say this stuff, including a friend of the show, friend of yours and mine, Cam, and I'd say there's a lot being said about Red Bull's performance falling off a cliff, and I get it. And shout out to the folks that are joining us. Hi, Sema. Hi, Michael. Hi, Humphrey. Listen, man, we are acting like Red Bull just went from competing for race wins to all of a sudden being, behind the second team, the Racing Bull. Now, you can argue that this is Red Bull's competitiveness has a lot to do with Max, but it's not like Max himself is building a car too. Like, they have put all of their eggs in the Max basket to make that car as competitive as it can be, and evidently it's only competitive in his hands. But Chess, need I remind you, they were on pole in the British Grand Prix. On pole, not second, not third, not fourth, not 10th. They were on pole. So and you say, and so let's zoom out of that. Fine, that race was what it was, right? They had a poor showing in Austria. I get it. I mean, also unlucky though, because he got hit by Kimi. Like, there was nothing they could have done about that. He didn't qualify as high up there as he could. But it is what it is, right? Let's also admit some facts. McLaren are the only team this year that have been head and shoulders above everyone else, not just Red Bull, but Ferrari, but Mercedes, and everyone else down across the grid. So it's not like you've all of a sudden lost everything. It's just that McLaren has made that step forward. They've figured out how to manage their tires. They've figured out how to run better in dirty air, not damage their tires. All of those things have come together. So can we not just admit that this is McLaren's year? Can it not just be that? Sure, and then if you take that, last 4 years, they've won 4 championships.
Amar, where are McLaren in the standings at the moment? In the constructors?
First.
Oh, yeah, okay. Where are Red Bull?
Probably third or fourth.
Fourth.
Okay, Chaz. Don't
This
do
isn't
that.
about-
They didn't
this
win. They didn't win the constructors last year either. They placed all their eggs in the
This
basket. You
isn't
can't do that.
about. Okay, but where's Max in the driver's standings?
He's probably third. No.
So what's going on here?
So, but what do you mean? What's going on? And this is the only year he's not going to win a championship.
If you're
They've won
telling
4
me,
years in a row.
yeah,
Wait,
Amar,
we're pretending like
this is the final year of a rule set that they dominated from 22
fair enough.
right to the middle of 2024. They dominated it, and since all of this stuff has happened at Red Bull, they have fallen off a cliff in terms of performance.
Do not disagree with you. I do not disagree, but this is not the
And where
first
do you
time
lay the
that
blame
they've
for
been down. You can lay the blame on Horner, but if you let him go now when everyone else is pretty much left, I mean, look, man, who are you going to bring in that's going to resurrect the team? It's not going to happen. So you're going to have to rebuild anyway, right? So who is the guy to rebuild them? Like, I don't understand what that means. If you said it's the WhatsApp, all that nonsense, that was 18 months ago. If it's Newey, that's about a year ago.
Yeah. So I don't disagree, right? That I think that Christian Horner leaving Red Bull weakens the team, but you have to look at why they have lost performance, right? And it is because of key personnel that have gone as a direct consequence of Christian Horner still being there. And I'll give you the reasons. Adrian Newey left because he said, number one, that all of this stuff around the WhatsApp messages made him uncomfortable.
Are you sure it's just that?
Even if you put that down as a secondary reason.
That's not the only thing. Okay.
Correct. Even if you put that down as a secondary reason, the primary reason was that Christian Horner wholly backed his technical team under Pierre Vacher, who said, we don't need Adrian Newey. He sits in the corner and he throws in a couple of ideas here and now, but here and again, but we are the ones that are leading this. We have all the ideas. We're driving development forward. So Adrian Newey, as a result of that, said, fine, if you don't need me, I'm going to go. So off he went, right? That was Christian Horner backing the wrong horse within his own technical department that led to Adrian Newey leaving, number one. Number two, Jonathan Wheatley on the race performance side of the equation. Why did he leave? He left because he wanted to be team principal at some point, right? There was no room at the inn for him to do that because Christian Horner, after 20 years, wasn't willing to give up anything. And this is what, if you read any of the commentary about why Christian Horner is no longer in post, part of the reason was because he wanted his fingers in every pie within the organization. Drivers, racing balls, powertrain, technical. He wanted to be intrinsic to all of that. And that just means that there's stagnation in the team below you. They have nowhere to go. So Jonathan Wheatley just said, all right, fine. I've been here for 20 freaking years. I've been here since the Jaguar days. I got you pretty much that title in 2021.
I got you. Yes, I got you.
When it was heading down the drain in Abu Dhabi, I made the call. And look, here I am, right? And as soon as he's left, they've started to make mistakes in pit stops. They've started to have issues. Like, just look at what happened in Silverstone. You know,
I saw what McLaren did too.
Yeah. Suddenly, it's not sure, but we're not talking about McLaren. We're talking about Red Bull. Red Bull, who set the standard for pit stops because of what Jonathan Wheatley did, and they slip as soon as he leaves. And that was a direct consequence of him not having the opportunities at Red Bull. And then you put on top of that the chief of strategy heading off to McLaren because there's better prospects there. Rob Marshall, again, better prospects elsewhere. You can shez me all you want, but ultimately,
I'm just asking.
Like Christian Horner has to take a massive responsibility for this.
No one disagrees with that, Shez. What happens in winning organizations? Folks leave to go on, take on similar leadership elsewhere because they believe that they know what it takes to be successful. Ergo, they think that they can go and make that impact somewhere else. That is not unusual. That is not unheard of. Mercedes has lost personnel over the years. It happens in every organization.
Their core team has stayed together. And that was the strength that Red Bull had. For 20 years, they had the core staff that didn't go anywhere.
I agree.
Now they've all gone. And it's because of Christian Horner.
And guess who was orchestrating all the 20 years? I mean, we can poop all over Christian Horner for the last 18 months. And I get it. Again, he's
Well
made
done.
bad decisions, but he's won
But
2
and Amar,
4
that's
Peats
Amar, that's
for
great.
drivers. I mean,
Yes.
anything that Max has won has to do with Christian Horner. So you can't just disregard that over what 18 months has transpired.
I'm not. But
So
you can't. But Formula One isn't about looking backwards. It's about
no.
looking forwards. And Christian Horner's left this team with nothing directly because of him.
That's your interpretation based on what this season has played out. It's 12 races. And my point to you is, it's not about what he's done over the 20 years that by itself should be reason to keep him on. It's what he has been able to do over 20 years after getting beat up in seasons and being able to come back. If you're going to hire a new leader today to replace him, you're going to expect that they can build a team around him. So my point to you is, why wouldn't you think that the guy who brought you to this point can rebuild? He could rebuild. And a rebuild takes time. It always takes. Look at what Mercedes are doing. They have stunk in this rule set, right? No one's calling for Toto Wolff to be fired, right? We all believe inherently, because of proof of concept, because of past results, that he can bring them back. It's still to be seen. Now it's 4 years in this rule set that Mercedes are nowhere.
Let's rewind because I think Michael Delorso here.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, Michael, and shout out to you, buddy. You've just said Newey and Wheatley were hired in 0506. Can't live off that anymore. The replacements are incompetent. That's on Horner. So let's rewind, Amar. Let's rewind back to 0506. Yeah. In 05, they did absolutely nothing. They were basically using Jaguar's last car, just updated a little bit for the new regulations. And in 06, again, they were using something similar, but they had Newey on board. And Newey incrementally started to get them moving forwards. And as soon as there was a technical rule change in 2009, suddenly Red Bull were up at the top. And they didn't let go. For 4 seasons, they didn't let go. But then something very, very seismic happened. There was a change in the regulations and it became much more about power unit, right? But Red Bull have always been about chassis, have always been about aero because they have Adrian Newey. They never lost that. Through the fallow years, they didn't lose that. Yes, he stepped away a little bit and they suffered for that in 2017 because when the rules changed again, Newey wasn't around to help them out. So every time Newey is not in the picture, suddenly Red Bull take a step backwards in terms of technical performance. But I want to talk to you a little bit about those fallow years. So they were fallow because they didn't have a power unit that was on par, right? Why didn't they have a power unit that was on par? Well, Renault just didn't create one. But did Red Bull ever have the opportunity to take a power unit of anybody else?
Yes, they did. No, was it Honda? No.
So they took it off of Honda eventually because Honda essentially had been spurned by McLaren who had treated them really, really badly. So they left, right?
Yes.
What did Horner do to Renault? Why was it
he treated them really badly?
Correct.
Because they were their engines were just. I mean, we saw what happened to those engines.
But they put themselves. So there was a point in the middle of that fallow period where Red Bull would have taken a power unit from anyone else, but nobody wanted to supply them because of the way that Christian Horner was mouthing off at Cyril Abitbol about the Renault power unit, to the point where Renault said, "Right, screw it, we're creating our own works team because." And if you're going to give us this, it's not about how they performed. It's about the fact that they then said, all right, but you know what? You are no longer our works team anymore. So you can also put a little bit of the performance deficit that Red Bull suffered in that time down to Christian Horner's antics and the way that he played politics in the paddock with his own power unit supplier at that time. And just in terms of what you're talking about in terms of Mercedes coming back up again, number one, they haven't. But number two, they've done what Red Bull did in that fallow period. They didn't lose their staff. The team that Christian Horner built up, which he did build up,
That's perfect.
I'm being,
it's okay. You know, this is perfect. I needed somebody to let me get in. So here's what I'll tell you, Shez. To everything you have just been saying, right? I 100% agree with you. Like you are right, and I'm going to give Shez a chance here to take care of more important things in life. I do not disagree with everything that Shez said. My only point is, by the way, the Renault example actually makes the point for me, because Christian Horner was right to be mad. Look at what happened with Renault. I mean, Alpine are now going out and getting Mercedes engines. So I don't know. I feel like, yes, could Horner have been better with them? Sure, he could have. But that doesn't mean that they had the answers and he didn't. So I don't agree with Shez's take over there. And I would just say again, I said that Mercedes have not made a comeback yet. They are hanging on to their staff, but not everybody. There's been a few engineers that have been moved. Movement in F1 is natural. Movement in any successful organization is natural. I mean, I can give you the example of the New England Patriots, where Bill Belichick was at the helm of the Patriots for damn near 20 years and won pretty much everything. And he had people leaving left, right, and center. He could make it happen. So there are plenty of examples of how people can come back. Now, what I would say and what I would agree with is perhaps the time is gone to have the one guy that sort of leads a team at the helm and does everything. So I think the fairest criticism of Christian Horner and the way he was kind of doing it is that this is not the way a Formula One team works anymore. You have to have a structure that is hierarchical, that allows for people within different departments, let it be the design department, strategy department, marketing, all of these things have to be separated a little bit more. And I think McLaren are proof of concept in what seems to be working well, particularly at the onset of this era of Formula One. So they have shown a model that actually can work. And so maybe Christian Horner should have been open to that. Look, guys, we don't know what actually happened. Like, let's just be real. We're prognosticating here. We are talking about stuff that's been written in print media and Twitter, and some of it is borderline true-ish, if anything, right? So we have no earthly idea if Christian Horner was not agreeable to a future structure that basically broke up parts of his portfolio and gave others a chance to lead them. Could be. But Christian Horner is also the guy who got Red Bull into bringing Ford on, or whatever the powertrains will be named next year. So, I cannot see for 1 second that he would be the guy to be let go at this point in time. End of last season, I could see it. Beginning of last year, could see it, right? You could see this being a good decision if it were for the long term at the right time. You are going into a new rule set. I mean, what do we talk about with drivers changing teams? You really don't want to be changing teams next year, because you want to see how the regulations are playing out. You want to see what the competitive pecking order is going to be. And until you can actually see that, there is really no point in being able to make changes right now. You're taking a big risk. And in my opinion, Red Bull have taken a big risk at this point, not because I believe that Horner was necessarily the best guy. We can keep debating that. I think the timing of it is very interesting, and it happens on the heels of a heated debate that Horner had with Jos Verstappen at the British Grand Prix. But it also happens on the heels of what we already know, which is what's happening behind the scenes, which is with Red Bull's parent company, where the Uvidia's son essentially gave up hasn't really given up. The 2% share that he inherited from his dad is now sitting in a trust. Ergo, the power structure of the organization changed, and there we go. And so that has led to that. So while Shez gets back, let me go back and hop on some questions. So shout out to Michael again. Michael, thanks for your support. Thanks for being here. You did ask me if I golf. Actually, don't. I did back in the day, but not anymore. Shout out to Humphrey. Yes, Brundle and Horner are friends. I mean, we kind of knew that, and I think we've covered a lot of ground on that. I really just wonder how this is going around with if you are any of our Dutch audiences. I love the fact that that Martin Brundle came essentially to Christian Horner's defense within hours of him being fired, and for us to know that is really an interesting angle, and one, by the way, that we have talked a lot about here with British bias. Another topic for another day. I think James Allen, yes, Johan, if I'm saying your name correctly, has said a lot of good stuff, and I think that some of the analysis on the Christian Horner firing at this point really just points to a sort of power play that's happening behind the scenes. If you said performance is an issue, this would have not been the time. Even if you believe that this season was going in the crap, which you could assume to be the case, 12 races left, it doesn't realistically look like anyone can challenge McLaren, let alone Red Bull, right? I don't think the Ferraris can do that. There's a lot of fluff and talk about Ferraris fixing their rear suspension and the geometry on their car. All remains to be seen. They always seem to be winning the game that happens off track, but not really on track. So I don't think Mercedes are focused on this season anymore, and why would they? They seem to have the leg up for the new rule set in 26, and so I would imagine that they would want to focus there too. So there is no clear competitor to the McLaren drivers. I think the only interesting thing that's left in this season is, will the two drivers get together with each other as they did in Canada? How many more times? What will the outcome be? And who's going to ultimately lose more points? Because they both have the ability to gain 25 each and every weekend, except for themselves. And Lando is flawed in his own way, Oscar in his own way too. So there's that. And so getting back to the Horner stuff, right? A couple of you are writing in that Horner made some strategic decisions for 2 years and it went downhill fast. Look, man, I don't disagree with it. If you believe that Christian Horner was not the guy for you, that decision had to be made 18 months ago when the allegations of all the things that have been put out in the press, and really things that we don't even know about fully, that was the time to decide, is this the guy to lead you on? But once you've had Adrian Newey leave, once you've had Jonathan Wheatley leave, Will Courtney, everyone else that's gone off behind the scenes, at this point, you're about as weak in an organization as you are. So unless you're taking the mindset of, look, we need to hit reset completely and we need to bring in a fresh voice, fresh perspective. And we don't know if Laura Mekius is that. Is he the guy to take Red Bull into that next stage and perhaps they bring someone above him that is in a Zach Brown type of role? I would imagine so. And so that, again, would look a little bit like the McLaren structure where you have Zach Brown and then you have Andrea Stella and then you have all these other departments kind of doing their thing. Perhaps that's what they're doing. My real question to all of you that are watching us right now is, what does this mean for Max? Because let's say Brundle is true in saying that this was Camp Verstappen, it would seem like they finally got what they wanted, right? Be careful what you wish for, right? But here you go. Now you have it, Max. And I'm not blaming Max for this. I really think this is happening behind the scenes. But if Camp Verstappen got what they wanted, then if they leave now, then what else is left? Like, this is pretty much it. Like, who are you going to promote in there? You're going to put Arvid Lindblad all of a sudden in there? Well, that's not really going to happen, right? But I don't understand that. So Shez is back. I do want to give him a chance to kind of get back in. But I do not disagree with the reasons behind firing Christian Horner, the performance reasons, the drip of staff, maybe perhaps the direction in which he was going. But the reality is the timing of it is what makes all of this bad. If it were to happen at season's end or season's beginning, that would make sense. If it were to happen after next year's rule set comes into play, let's see what that Ford sticker looks like, right, on Red Bull. We don't know what that looks like. So why not wait and see what that's looking like, Ches? So I'll let you hop back in here. But
yeah, sorry about that, guys. But
no.
But that the timing of it, yeah, it looks weird. But that to me is the only bit of it that suggests that the Verstappens had something to do with it. Like this is some kind of Hail Mary from the entire Red Bull organization to try and keep Max on board, or to punish Christian for losing Max in the first place. It's going to be one of those two things. But ultimately, Max Verstappen is that team's greatest asset right now.
Of course,
like there isn't anything else. The powertrain, the powertrain's venture is a Christian Horner gamble, and I think, as somebody has said in the comments, it's because they couldn't hold on to Honda or couldn't get them to come back to them when they decided to come back. It's just such a weird situation to find themselves in. But they've been pushed down that route, and maybe in the longer term, that will be great, but not, I don't think, in the time frame that Max needs it to be, and it's not a plus point for them. So all of these things have worked out against Christian Horner, and perhaps they're happening because of Christian Horner. That's why ultimately I think he had to go, and Red Bull will need to take some pain because of it, and perhaps another team somewhere else on the grid will benefit from it. But I don't.
Not this year. Not this year.
But I can't see that there was any other way out. It was either going to be Max leaves or it was going to be Horner leaves. At the moment, it looks like both. But anyway,
Yeah, so this is the problem with the timing of it, right? So we'll kind of move forward here, Shez, but I do want to answer this question, kind of take it in this place, which is a potential sale, right? Johan writes that I believe Mateschitz at some point wanted to sell the team to Porsche, if I'm correct, and if I have my story correct, Horner went to Mateschitz and said, no, just wait and see what happens. We're going to, bring in our own manufacturer. And I might not have all of those pieces together correctly, but he essentially talked Mateschitz out of it. So, ergo, now, if you look at what's happened now, I suppose the real question is Red Bull really up for sale? Then that could be the thing. I mean, this could be the reason. I mean, or the Red Bull Racing team, rather, I should say.
Yeah, I mean, now more than ever, right? But not that I think that selling out to Porsche was actually going to be the right move for Red Bull, because look, the beauty of the way that Red Bull go racing is that they had Mateschitz at the top, but he was a very hands-off kind of benefactor, and he let the race team run. He had his man Helmut Marko, and Horner, Newey, and the star driver that had at any period within that time were the crux of the decision making within that team, and then you had to run it. It was like having like a massive budget Williams, right? This is what Williams want to be, like, to have all this autonomy, but also have a heap of cash on top of it as well. And that's how Red Bull were run. But Porsche, when they came in, and I think this was Porsche's downfall, this is why they're not in Formula One, is because they didn't want to be just a power unit manufacturer that was a customer that provided the power unit to a customer, right? They wanted to own the team and be part of the team, which is what Audi have got. But look, with the best will in the world, there hasn't been a major manufacturer that has bought into Formula One, bought into a Formula One team, and then absolutely blitzed it, doing it their own way. But there is a graveyard of manufacturers that have tried to do it that way and failed miserably. I mean, they come from all continents. Like Toyota managed to fail, Honda managed to fail, like BMW managed to fail.
But Ches, can I jump in here? Wouldn't you argue that the new rule set, and at least the way Formula One have been tweaking how teams perform, right? The cost cap, or the budget cap rather, and the new rule sets and the way cars are being manufactured, and all everything that's kind of put in together. This is a new era of Formula One. I mean, I could argue that. Look, a team like Porsche coming in may not be successful right out of the gate, but if they can stay in it for long enough, like hopefully Audi does, and Audi already has a win or a podium before they come in. But I know it's Sauber, just before you guys correct me in the chat. But it now is not is the best time to do this. So what better time than now, right? Because if you were to make that argument for someone coming in fresh into Formula One, by the way, Mohammed bin Salem, your guy, is thinking about another team, a 12th team. So that might happen too. I've heard. I just wanted
me
to get
and him
that
do
in
not
there.
speak.
It's you and him. They're on a WhatsApp texting. If you guys want anything run up to the FIA, just let Shez know. He can do it for you. Yeah, but I digress there here. So I really think that this. So Shez, maybe not Red Bull Racing, but perhaps this might be the time that the racing bulls get sold.
I mean, I don't know, but the history of Formula One again doesn't really support that, especially when you consider that the power unit manufacturers will also provide their power units to customers, right? So Audi aren't doing that, and if Porsche suddenly turn up, they also wouldn't. They would have their own power unit. That means they don't have the development potential, the data streams that are coming from other teams that are their customers, and actually, when you look at like who has been successful in the past 5 years, and even before that, Mercedes, because Mercedes aren't really a manufacturer team. Yes, they've got a badge on it, but in reality, the board only own a third of that team. They have naming rights on the car, but really it's Toto that runs the organization. And it was the same with Red Bull. Red Bull are an independent team. The racing team run the racing team, and Red Bull just supply the cash. And in the same way, McLaren are doing that now as well. They are a customer. They take a customer Mercedes power unit, but ultimately it's a racing team that does the business. And I don't see a scenario in which Porsche would suddenly turn up and be successful. And to me, this speaks much more about the corporatization of the Red Bull Formula One team. If they're for sale, it just hammers the final nail into the coffin of what was once a very successful Formula One team that has completely changed in the last 18 months, 2 years, to something that is much more of a corporate entity, which is something that other big entities have tried to do, but they don't understand the equation that is the success of Formula One, which is to let the experts do their thing.
Which is, as you know, these outcomes don't sway billionaires and multi-billionaires from still jumping into businesses like this. And Formula One is about as lucrative as owning a Formula One team is about as lucrative as owning any other sports team this day and age. So my reference to you is this. I think that if Red Bull were put up for sale, I think the Red Bull, but let's just use Racing Bulls as an example, as one team, it would fetch somewhere between $3 to $4 billion, right? And that is that might even be underestimated there. So never. I'm just going to leave it with this, and we can move on to the next topic. This is a Christian Horner firing, but don't discount the fact that there are people behind the scenes running a corporation, looking at dollars, looking at bottom lines, and remember, always buy low, sell high. This is about as high a time to sell a team if you wanted to really make money. So I think that we're still sort of waiting to see what all of that looks like in the near future. But I think a sale is on.
I don't look. It's not in principle that I think a billionaire or a big manufacturer or a big corporation should buy a Formula One team. I think that it can be successful. But what you can't do, and that this is what Red Bull is starting to do, and this is what I really worry the Austrian side of the team have started to do, that they've got upset about the fact that Christian Horner wields so much power within the team. But what they hadn't understood, I think, and this is maybe what has precipitated all of this, although Christian is not innocent in any of this, is that they have wanted, like they do at Ferrari, to start making those decisions themselves. Why, if we're putting all this money in, why are we not making decisions within the Formula One team? And that's something that Dietrich Mateschitz had resisted very, very astutely. It's something that other teams, your team is one that you should definitely this is something that should come naturally to you. This disdain for the top level.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
White collar people interfering. Like even Enzo freaking Ferrari was guilty of it. Like he sat there, and when John Surtees came to him and said, "Look, mate, maybe we should start focusing on aerodynamics," he was like, "What are you talking about? We build our own engine."
Yeah, that's it. Look, man, there are examples of this riddled throughout sport of any and every kind. Like I think meddling owner or ownership group is not the first or the last time this would happen. And again, my objection with the Christian Horner firing is not necessarily because I believe he's one of the GOATs or I'm picking a side between Camp Verstappen and him or whoever else. My question is, why would you do it at this time unless you have something we just don't know about? And the only thing I can point to is, as one of our commenter is pointing out, is that it is possible to sell the team now. Maybe that's on the cards. At least one of the two teams, I would imagine, is probably on the cards too. Because
you could sell Racing Bulls even if Christian Horner was there.
But I don't think he would have let go of it. Like I mean, we know that they were using it as a test ground. It's an extension of their academy, really. I mean, that's what it's been. Like that's.
But Mike, at the moment, until they buy him out of it, Horner is still on the board of directors for every facet of Red Bull's Formula One operation.
It's going to be fascinating.
So how that happens, I don't know. Yeah, sure, they might be more attractive to another entity, but Horner's still there to say nah.
No, I think that these are all I'm sure people that have access to sort of how the corporate structure works and those that are in corporate law probably know a lot about it. I just don't think Christian Horner to Ferrari is happening, by the way, and we can jump into this now because I think we have just about enough time to finish this topic. We'll have to come back and do the other stuff at another day, but I don't. I mean, the question that we got in the chat is Horner to Ferrari. Maybe. I mean, I think we've covered a lot of ground on this. I do not think that this is a match that would happen, because if you are saying Horner to Ferrari, then all you're assuming is that Horner can bring all of the methods that have made him successful at Red Bull, at Ferrari, and it's like a square peg in a round hole. It's just not going to happen. Because forget everything else. Ferrari will not let it happen. They will just not, because the idea that they would
medal.
Exactly, the idea that they would listen to anyone it's crazy to them. Like, it just doesn't matter. So poor old Fred. I feel bad.
I agree. I think anybody that has that sort of whatever the failings are at Ferrari, Christian Horner can remedy them. Isn't grasping what the problem at Ferrari is, and it's not Fred Vasseur. Like,
it's not Fred Vasseur.
Fred stand up and try to impose his vision on the team, and as soon as there's an inkling that the performance isn't quite there, the top brass have come down on him and started making comments in the media saying that maybe his job is at risk. So I think the same thing happens to Horner if he turns up.
I think the only place that makes sense, and this would take a lot of machinations, is Alpine. I mean, they're a team that.
But I think Alpine works if he gets a stake in the team, right? But
Correct.
The problem with that is that right now, to buy out a Formula One team is going to be $1 billion. It's going to be a cool $1 billion, and
it could happen.
Does he have that kind of capital?
Well, I mean, I don't know that he necessarily needs all of that too. I mean, look, you just said he's sitting high up in the Red Bull hierarchy too, right? So there's probably some financial leveraging that can be done. Again, we would have to dive into this with an expert who can kind of tell us all the machinations of this. But look, where there's smoke, there could be fire, right? And there's yes, all of the financial gymnastics aside, Shez, if you're to pick a team where it would make a lot of sense, it would fit perfectly, it's Alpine and him. Like, they're based in Enstone. They're like unless you're thinking Aston, right? That would be interesting. Like, who knows? Papa Stroll might clear out the deck too.
But I think Andy Cowell, again, if you start to do that, then you're undermining.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't work.
Right.
Well, that's why Alpine works, right? Because they're essentially a unit that's in tatters, right? And Horner could bring it's really like Jaguar from 20 years ago. Really,
I agree. And they're just running a revolving door of team personnel. So Alpine, for me, I agree. I think that works really, really well. Okay, are we going to move on to another topic?
Let's do a quick bit on this. I do want to get your take on this, because those of you that have followed the show since we've been doing this for about a year plus will note that Shez has a particular liking for one Alain Prost, who he believes should be in the GOAT conversation firmly in there. I do not, but that's another topic, another debate for another day.
This is
of courst, yes. This is I know. I mean, hold your horses, Shez.
Ongoing oversight by yourself.
So Prost was I believe at the Goodwood Festival, right? Is that correct?
At the Festival of Speed this weekend.
Festival of Speed, right?
Which
in Goodwood,
looked amazing.
Amazing. And what Seb did there was a little bit embarrassing.
I had tickets to freaking Goodwood
oh my goodness
this weekend.
Why don't you go there, man?
I had work. Work wouldn't let me off.
This thing called job. I can't believe you got to get your priorities straight, man.
Yeah,
like, it's just crazy. That's crazy, man. So anyway, Prost was being interviewed by Karun Chandok, and then he was asked. I don't know what prompted him, but I think the whole thing about Oscar came about with Prost talking about getting Renault to sign him to the Alpine Academy, and here I'll quote you. He said, "I know Oscar much better," Prost says, because I was the one to push Renault to bring him into the academy a long time ago. They did not want to. I mean, the irony for Alpine, forget everything else, is just cannot be lost on us. And he goes on to say, I saw him driving Formula 3 or even Formula 4 and then F2. And then this is the part that caught my eye. Prost says about Piastri, I like the way he behaves, a little bit like me. Thinking about when to do the right maneuver for overtaking and a little bit more clever, he continued. And I was like, good God, I laughed myself off my chair. Like, that would have been a visual for everybody. Maybe not just...
As in you falling off your chair.
Oh my God, like, come on. I mean, man, nothing has changed. Prost cannot get a little more up. Me maximum. Prost is me maximum. Piastri is a little bit more like me. Good God, you've only had 12 races to see him race. He hasn't won anything yet. Like, What?
I don't understand your point.
He's just there.
As in he
He's there
has
to
to
praise
win.
himself.
He has to win championships before.
Not a championship. Can he win a championship? One a championship? No, he can't do that. He can't do that before we start crowning him.
You're taking this really personally, Amar.
No,
what's wrong?
I just can't believe that Prost. I mean, I should believe this. He couldn't get more of himself. Like, this is all about him. It's like, oh, he drives like me. Very clever. As if, have you seen Max? Hello? Like, what do you mean? Like, Oscar owns a monopoly on being clever? Oh, good God. Come on, get out of here with that. Like, I mean, all respect to Alain for being one of the GOATs.
I feel like there's zero respect for Alain in this conversation. I'm struggling to understand what your point is.
Total respect for him. Disrespect for that comment. Like, for him to act like, oh, I got Oscar to Alpine. Look at what he's doing in McLaren. I'm smart. I'm clever. Like, okay, all right. Mark Webber had nothing to do with it. Okay, fine, fair enough. Okay, cool.
Yeah, but somebody at Renault has to.
But somebody somewhere has to do something with it. Everything. I mean, Toto takes credit for Max, doesn't he? I mean, come on. Like, somebody has to do something somewhere for any driver. Like, they don't just plop out of the sky. So, like, I mean, what is that?
But in the same way that Helmut Marko is going to take a huge amount of credit for Max Verstappen turning up.
But he's actually leading the academy, as opposed to one Alain Prost saying something at a festival. Like, come on, So you think that's fine? It's an okay comment, huh?
I don't see the problem with it.
Okay, of course you don't, but you have Prost up there. So
but even let's take that aside. Let's say I hate Alain Prost. What's your problem with the statement?
My problem with Prost is that he loves himself some Prost. That's what he does. That's what he did back in the day to screw around with Senna, and that's what he's doing now.
Senna never did anything that was just about Senna. Right?
I will not entertain that one bit at all. Senna
was never selfish at all. He was so.
It's not about being selfish. Come on, man.
But Senna also never bigged himself up, never said, I'm the greatest, I deserve this, I should be the winner at all times. But he never said that.
But I don't see Senna walking around saying, oh, I thought Max was going to be amazing. Like, you don't see that, do you? Right? I mean, come on, Alain, just do your thing, show Ollie Behrman how your car works and move on. I mean, I'm being tongue-in-cheek here, Shaz, but I think that was interesting.
Remember that Alain did actually win more world championships.
I can't wait for him to be celebrating with Piastri in Abu Dhabi when Piastri has won the championship. Like, he's going to be out there spraying champagne with it.
Yeah, and I've just clocked Michael's comment. Shez may be a big Prost fan, but there's no bigger Prost fan than Prost. Nobody's.
Thank you, Michael. Close. Finally.
Yes, but every Formula One driver is a big fan of themselves. There's no one that turns around and goes, yeah, that guy was better than I was. Like,
no, I think the point Michael is trying to make is
other than Valtteri Bottas.
Michael's trying to make the point that that Prost cannot get enough footage for himself. That's what he wants to be in the spotlight. Like, he wants. That's
when was the last time you saw him in a McLaren?
I don't know, when he retired, right? Okay,
exactly. That was like freaking 40 years ago.
Why does he have to say that? And by the way, that's a dig at Lando. Like, I don't even get it. Like, I don't understand that. Like, I mean, okay, forget it. Let's move on.
No, I do want to understand this, because there's a huge amount of animosity here towards Alain Prost, and I don't quite understand it, because look, the bare facts of it are that, for me at least, seeing Alain back in that MP44 was unbelievably cool.
Amazing. Right? Nothing wrong with that.
Super cool. And he was asked, and just to your point, I think actually the biggest Prost fan of all time is Karun Chandok.
Yeah, I think it is.
But Karun asked him a question, and Alain answered about Oscar Piastri. But to be fair, when did all of that happen? That happened in what, 22? Did it 21, 22?
Probably, yeah. 21,
that Alain Prost did. I haven't actually heard him say a single word about him being fired by Renault in that time. Have you?
I have not heard a single.
No. So to criticize him for 5 years later saying something that criticizes the organization that fired him acrimoniously and who are now in the doldrums themselves,
Well,
I'm not sure that's a massive.
Are you sure he
criticism of
didn't
Alain
cause a lot
Prost.
of the issues that are happening? Just because we don't believe Christian Horner made right decisions, so maybe Prost was giving Alpine
Prost
wrong
was like
advice too.
Prost was the non-executive chairman there.
So
He
what
was
was
like,
it? Did he
he
have
was like
something
in
to do with them being successful or not? Which one is it? Are we going to pick a side
well,
or no?
they weren't successful, but the
So
reason
he's
they weren't
responsible.
successful wasn't because of Alain Prost. Alain Prost wasn't the head of the organization. The head of the organization at the time was I mean, I actually don't understand why you're so riled up about it. But Luca De Meo was the guy that was at the head of Renault at that time, and we know that it was him hiring and firing like a revolving door that dropped Alpine down to where they are right now.
I don't.
And by the time that was happening, Alain was already gone.
Yeah, I know.
So that
He
clearly
knew
didn't.
he knew when to hit the exit. Like as soon as the SH1T hit the fan, like he was ready.
I mean, I don't. It's not your choosing when you get sacked. So he was sacked.
You
That's
can.
on record, bruv. That's
No
not
one
me
would.
making
No
this
one
up.
would sack him unless he gave them reason to. Like this is like
Sure.
a voluntary
Yeah,
leave.
sure,
Anyway,
sure.
I was just
Sure. I
being
mean,
funny for
I
you.
love the conspiracy theory nonsense, but the facts are actually out in the open. And
Well, by the way,
I do find it odd that you're saying that he goes on about himself all the time and criticizes Alpine all the time when this is the first time I've heard him say anything since he was fired 4 years ago. But anyway,
yeah. Well,
but just to your point about Piastri, I don't think the comparison is completely unfounded. In fact, we did a video entitled Prost with a giant picture of Oscar Piastri on it, because there is a similarity in the way that they go about racing, especially when you think about the sort of emotional, visceral way that Lando goes racing, and then the very quiet, analytical. And I do think he races wheel to wheel better than Alain Prost does. There's definitely a part of his game that I think is better than Alain. Alain just got himself through strategy and his pace into a better position that meant that he never had to overtake anyone. But Piastri, when he's put in that position, especially the way he raced in Miami was millimetrically brilliant. It was very, very good. And it's that side of things that I think Prost sees about himself and Oscar. I don't necessarily think that there's a massive. I don't think there's a massive controversy in saying that.
There is no controversy in saying that, but as some of our listeners, viewers will point out, Prost was about politics.
Prost was all politics, Oscar none. But it's true. It's true that Oscar, when he's been given a penalty, turns around to the team and says, "Oh, guys, look, if we're not going to fight, if we think this penalty is nonsense, why don't you put me ahead of Lando Norris?" That's definitely not being political. You are correct, John Feenstra. Thank you for that, mate. Shout out to you, sir.
There you have it. We should end on this because I gotta go take care of stuff. This has been a great chat, Ches.
As usual.
As usual. Ches, let you do your thing. Come on, close us
out. Cool, guys. Thanks. That was another live. It closes out our little trilogy of lives. I think we'll keep trying to do them as long as you guys are keen to listen to us. But as usual, please please subscribe. The more you like, the more you subscribe, the more videos we make. Please leave us more comments. We'll reply to as many as we possibly can, and we will see you guys. Where's my finger? There it is. In the next one.
Later.